Hi everyone, I'm Evan. I'm a Philadelphia-based photographer and video editor, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why I believe the Fuji X100V is the perfect companion or alternative to the Leica M6. Thanks for tuning in to Channel 17. We have a title fight for the ages for you tonight. We have the young up-and-comer from Japan taking on the undisputed heavyweight champ from Germany. And the question on everybody's mind, can it do it? Let's go to the tail of the tape. Now, the Fuji has been dominating headlines this past year, but the M6 has had a bit of a resurgence itself. After receiving a cult following the past few years, just this past October, it came out of retirement, and here we are. The Leica clearly has some age and weight on the 100V, however, they're more alike than they are different. This is a basement brawl between Big Brother and Little Brother. Is the golden age here to stay, or is it time for a new era? We will hopefully find out when we return. The Leica M6 was my first ever rangefinder camera, and I've been shooting with it for about 3 years now. And the big reason why I wanted to go for a rangefinder camera is just because I find that SLRs are just too big to carry around as an everyday carry. The focus throw is quite long in comparison, so for focusing quickly on the street, getting from close focus to infinity is super crucial. To be honest, I haven't found an SLR that I've really loved shooting with yet. Also, I want to preface this video by saying that you don't have to go out and get an M6 or anything similar for your first rangefinder camera. There are plenty of good other budget options out there if you want to give it a try. But the main reason why I went for the M6 as my first rangefinder was because, one, I was in a position to kind of splurge on it, and I bought it with the intention of keeping it forever, or, until it breaks down eventually, but I'm pretty sure that camera will outlive me. Also, I wanted to try the best first, just so that I'm not constantly chasing that dragon, which is very common if you're into shooting film cameras. There's always that thought of, oh, there's another camera that's better, and eventually you get to a point where there's a camera at the top of your grail list, and that's kind of what the M6 was for me. Lastly, I felt confident in my purchase because the film resale market, you'll probably get the money that you paid for it if you ended up not liking it and reselling it or making more on it. So basically stonks. The lens that I chose when I first got my M6 was the Voigtlander 35mm f2.5 Color Skopar. The main reason why I got it is because I wanted a 35mm lens, which obviously checks the box. And the big reason why I got it is because it's relatively affordable compared to the other Leica lenses, because I totally shot my wad on purchasing the camera body.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
It's also a pancake lens, which makes it super compact and basically pocketable. And in terms of sharpness, it's sharp enough in my experience. Now, as a lot of people figured out very quickly, myself included, that shooting film can get super expensive very, very fast. And that is why I decided to purchase the Fuji X100V. Now, before we get into the Fuji X100V part of this video, let me show you some of my favorite pictures that I took with the M6. Alright, let's get into the Fuji X100V. I've owned this camera for about a year now, and I got a super good deal on it used locally. I actually ended up getting it for below retail, which is unheard of, especially with today's secondhand market prices. And I truly believe that the X100V is the best companion for the Leica M6. And here's a few reasons why. First off, the layout and size are super similar. So I find them interchangeable. You know, like when I run out of film, or if I'm shooting color and I want to shoot black and white, I can switch them out. Both have a 35mm lens on it, or 35mm equivalent if you really want to get technical. It also has a hybrid viewfinder, which means it has both an optical viewfinder, so that similar of the M6, but also a electronic viewfinder, which allows you to see your exposure and the color profiles you have in real time, which I find extremely useful. The biggest selling point of this camera is probably the fact that you can use the Fujifilm film simulations, and Fuji X Weekly is a resource that I use a lot. They have an entire cookbook of what are called Fujifilm recipes, and what those are different custom profiles that allow you to emulate different film stocks. So for example, there's one for Portra or Ektachrome or HP5, and basically there's a recipe for any film stock. The main way I utilize these film recipes is I find myself shooting in black and white, and those will be my JPEGs, but I also shoot in RAW plus JPEG, so I have the color option if I want to go back to that in post. So it's good to just be able to have both color and black and white on the same format. The Fujifilm being a digital camera is probably the biggest reason why I think it's the best companion for the M6, because it gives you the freedom to shoot whatever you want without having to worry about related film costs. It also has autofocus, which is great. It really makes photography easy. You can literally just use it as a point and shoot and really just focus on being in the moment and not having to worry if your shot is in focus or not. And another great feature too that you don't have with film is that it's variable ISO. I haven't really tested higher ISOs in color, but I found in black and white I am very comfortable at shooting at like 10,000 ISO and still having a sharp image. The noise pattern is very close to film grain, which I find super unique and not something that I've experienced on other digital cameras before. While this camera is great for me, it might not be the option for you. For example, I really love the 35mm focal length, and you might want something a little bit tighter or a little bit wider. But the thing with this camera is, since it's a fixed lens camera, you can't swap out the lenses. There are the wide conversion lens and the teleconversion lens, which give you about a 28mm equivalent and a 50, but I haven't tested those yet. Also, the X100V is still a digital camera. Now, despite you being able to whip up some crazy film concoctions and the color settings, it won't ever fully replace film, but I honestly don't think there will be a digital camera out there that actually does. And lastly, the prices on the X100Vs are astronomical right now. I definitely don't think it's worth the inflated price tag, especially on the secondhand market where they're reaching like $2,000 for some reason. I definitely don't think it's worth it. My advice would be to get on a wait list at either your local camera shop or one of the big box retailers and wait it out. Or we're coming up on this camera being out for close to 3 years. It's been a little over 2, I think, and I would just wait on the next iteration to come out. Another piece of advice would be to try out some of Fuji's other cameras, because the great thing about Fuji is the sensors stay about the same on their whole lineup. The image quality is going to be almost identical. So you could try the X-T30, which is a great compact option. It's like a baby X-T4. Or if you want to get something more of the feel of the X100V, you could do the XE4 with the 27mm pancake. So it's an interchangeable X100V essentially. And if you want to, get something that's a little bit more hybrid, you could try out the XT4 and XT5, that kind of line. Or my personal favorite, the interchangeable lens camera that I chose, the XH2S, which I'm actually filming this video on right now. It's a total workhorse, and it does everything super well. But those are just some things to consider, and before we end the video, here are some of my favorite photos that I took with the 100V. So that wraps up today's video. Let me know your thoughts if you want to get an X100V or a Leica M6, or even what your dream camera is. Let me know down in the comment section below. That about does it, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.